Hello, everybody. It's the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission for Thursday, April 18th. Opening the meeting. Do we have that tape recording, Jacob, to play?
I'll run through roll call. Councillor Bell,
Present.
Commissioner Mason,
Present.
Commissioner Shoesmith, and Chair Johnson.
Present.
Today's meeting is being streamed live on the Township of Ramara YouTube channel. Be advised that by attending a public meeting of the commission, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. The chair, CAO, or secretary have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming in exceptional circumstances where the content of debate is considered inappropriate. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in unacceptable behavior or comments. Back to you.
Thank you, Jacob. We'll jump right into it. The adoption of the agenda, the recommendation of the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission agenda dated April 18, 2024 be adopted as presented. First, Commissioner Mason, second by Commissioner Shoesmith. All in favor? It's passed. The adoption of the minutes for the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission of 14th of March 2024. Was recommendations that Lagoon City Parks and Waters Commission's minute dated March 14, 24 be received and amended. The resolution PW 17.24 be amended that is follow up quote from Bees Be Gone be approved as discussed, and that the work be completed within the allocated budget as set out by council during the 2024 budget deliberations. From the floor, Councillor Bell, second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor? Does anybody have any disclosure of pecuniary interests? Open forum regarding agenda items only. Have anybody, Jacob? Six, presentation receiving of petitions and deputations. I don't see anybody here. Accounts and budgets. 7.1, accounts voucher for January and February 2024. Lagoon City Parks account voucher for January, February 2024. The recommendations that the accounts voucher for January and February 2024 be received as information. Put on the floor, Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion on that? It's all pretty straightforward. All in favor? Passed. 7.2, the budget to actual report, March monthly report. Recommendation of the budget to actual report for March 2024 be received as information. Councilor Bell put on the floor, second by Commissioner Shoesmith. Any discussion on that? Not much really talk about that. All in favor? It's passed. 7.3, the weed harvester loading ramp. The weed harvester loading ramp contract and info. Recommendations that we receive the weed harvester offloading ramp contract as information. Put on the floor, Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Commissioner Mason. Discussion? I actually have a couple questions, or actually just a few. The only thing I've got is that hedge. Have they fixed it? Because I took a quick look at it before I came, and I noticed it was pretty sparse on Pat's side and a little sparse in the middle towards the mailboxes.
Yeah, so any of the deficiencies that were identified back 2 years ago were done within that warranty period. Anything there now is outside of the warranty period, and if you guys choose to fill it in, it would be out of a separate budget now. So the warranty period's up. Everything was fixed as per the warranty within that period. So
those trees that are just what he fixed and he put in the little trees, or were they added afterwards?
well, there was a few that were replaced. So he got the closest to match what he could at the time. So everything was filled in, but there has been some that have died since then as well. So
Right. So on Pat's side, then, for curiosity, those trees that are there, was that part of the quote, or was that added in after?
no, that was all part of it. Yeah,
Because it looked like it was an afterthought the way they were put in, right?
there was a few that were put in afterwards towards the end of the fence line.
Right.
Because he couldn't get enough trees to do the whole thing the first year with it, so he put a few in at the end.
Okay, because the trees he did put in look good. Like I was looking at it. All in all, that's going to look really good. Give another year or two. That'll really be bushy. Nobody will see in there or bother anybody.
Yeah.
Really. Okay. And I guess everything else was inside. I didn't look inside it, but everything was good. There was no.
Yeah, everything was good. There was a little bit of some ponding in the one corner, but it was all repaired. Everything other than that was good. So
Okay, yeah, all right, perfect. Any more discussion? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Commissioner Mason.
Did I see that there was some backfilling done on that bridge abutment where there had been some washout against the shore wall, just right by the roadway, the concrete wall there? Did I see some
yeah,
new
so
gravel put in there?
because of the lack of winter that we had, we did do a lot of other work this year. There was a lot of shore walls within even in your budget synopsis that you got earlier. There was that James Dick invoice, some other invoices there. That work was for along the spit essentially in the two private parts. And then we've done work around the bridges as well to backfill around the shore walls. So
Discussion? All in favor? That's passed. Items of information. Infrastructure Public Works update. Recommendation, we receive the infrastructure and public update as information. Okay. Put on the floor, Councillor Bell, second by Commissioner Mason. Discussion?
I don't really have any updates at this point. Bubblers are all on. I believe they're all working. The one small pump was repaired. We repaired it internally. We just got a kit from Weeds Begone and did it ourselves. So it worked out really well.
So when they turned on, we double check that all the they're all working, right? Nothing's
Yeah.
plugged up
Yeah.
and everything fired up pretty good.
Yeah, well, we had one issue, but it's repaired now. So
Yeah, right. Okay. All right, yeah, okay, that's, I don't really have it. Sorry, Commissioner or Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Do we know maybe we'll have the North Footbridge tender back the next meeting?
yeah, it should be back the next meeting. It closes next Thursday, I believe, next Wednesday or Thursday. So
And what about the because I was gonna put this in new business, but this would be a good time to ask you about the takeoff area. Do we just have the one area still?
just the one area. Yeah. Yeah. It worked well last year. We didn't have any huge hiccups. We were able to, Chris was able to manage kind of the boats and where they went, and it worked really well. So
Mhm. Okay, and I could probably look this up as she's ask you, the dollar wise, are we the same price to keep the equipment there again at the?
I've been meaning to go down to the marina to talk to the owners to figure out 2024 rate. So
All right. Well, if something was to happen down at Marina and they close it down, what's our backup? Where are we gonna keep the equipment?
Beaver Trail,
At Beaver Trail? That's
where
our
we
backup?
did put the boats beginning of last year, but we had some concerned residents. But that essentially is our only spot to do it. We could put one or two over at the takeoff, maybe,
Right.
right at kind of the shore wall along the road there. But Beaver Trail is probably our best bet for marine storage if we had to.
You could put it out towards the lake, couldn't you? No shore ones, if you had to, right?
We could. It's just proximity for daily use, really.
Yeah.
Is kind of how I'm looking at it. So
Right, but we do have other places in emergencies. We have like all sorts of, the park area over it.
yeah. But I don't like moving them around as too much. If we don't have to, I'd rather keep it in one area. We could always go where we park the pontoon boat for the summer. So
Yeah, because I know over at Beaver Trail there, I remember we kept them there just briefly for one weekend and somebody got and cut all the hydraulic ones. They're all cut off. So
I think that was quite a few years ago.
It
That
was,
wasn't
it was
recently. Yeah.
well,
I
it's
think-
quite a, but I remember that
Yeah.
was what always scared me about putting it over there.
Yeah. We haven't had those issues any time recently.
Okay.
So yeah.
Any other questions for Josh? All in favor? Booking the Lagoon City Private North and South Beach, recommendation that we receive report AD-0924 as information and that staff will implement the Lagoon City Private Beach Booking Form and terms and conditions as presented. Put on the floor, Councillor Bell, second by Commissioner Mason. Discussion. Do you want to talk about it first? You're the one that set it up, so did you want to talk about it or?
Well,
Or-
yeah, I mean, I have an update. I sent. So
I have an
Sorry, isn't
update
this
and
the-
I
Is
sent
this
the
the beach
budget.
forum though? Aren't we talking beach forum? Just, we're not talking beach party.
My
We're-
apologies.
'Cause we
Okay,
just
I thought
skipped
that's what
over-
it was. Okay, sorry, my apologies. I thought that was what the discussion was. Okay, the booking form is Counselor Bell.
I did. I
Okay.
sent, I actually
We'll get
sent,
to you. Sorry.
no, that's okay. Yeah, it was, and because we missed the boat tour as well too. So we'll have to go back and
Yeah,
receive
yeah.
that. That's okay. That's okay. Your first day back, Cal.
How did I miss the boating tour?
Yeah, there's the,
The canal
canal tour.
tour is under new business 9.1.
Yeah.
Where did I miss that?
9.1. That's
But
okay.
we're on item 8.2, I believe, right now, which is to
Oh,
discuss the
okay, no,
beach.
I,
Well, my
okay,
thinking.
yeah.
That's okay. It's your
I
first day
understand.
back. You're
Yeah, I
still
know.
in Florida. Okay, so I sent Ash a document that we can pop up and look at, I think, because there's just some changes I think we should make because the form is missing, I think, a few things as far as under the policy statement, purpose, that kind of thing, where just to clarify the language a little bit. So I'll just give Ashley a second to pop it up so we can all look at it.
My apologies. My mind was thinking something else when I meant.
You're still
I was
going.
thinking about your thing.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. So under the policy, currently it reads use of Lagoon City, I'm sorry. Yeah, it reads use of Lagoon City North and South Beach. And actually, the more I looked at it, I noticed in the statement, we say facilities, parks and beaches. So I'm just gonna even modify what I originally wrote there, and it should probably read use of Lagoon City, private facilities, parks, and north and south beaches, just so that we get consistent language all the way through. So I can send this to you after, Jacob, too, as well, just so that it's all on. But I wanted to, so that everybody can see it while we're here. So that would be that one. And then under the statement, it currently reads Township of Ramara remains dedicated to providing residents and visitors with accessible, inclusive, and safe access to facilities, parks, and beaches. So I'm recommending the modification that it's the Township of Ramara and Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission remain dedicated to providing Lagoon City residents apportioned the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission levy, then they'd be known as members with accessible, inclusive, and safe access to its private beaches. And I'm just suggesting that because it's not for visitors to use unless they are under the, and so then I added a modification that we could approve to rent it. So that's those are the structure changes.
Yeah, and that was the one thing that I want to clarify because I didn't know, are we adding this? So that way, let's say I was in Brecken, I want to do something at the private beach. So that is providing clarity for that because now I know it's very specific to just members. So then there's some language even in the booking form and with this that we can be able to modify to make sure that is clear.
Exactly. So, and so kind of, I just carried it through. So then like under the purpose, I added from time to time, individuals, organizations, other than members with application and approval. So that way, exactly. If somebody did want to come to us, like when Roger does the beach volleyball or any of those things, or someone in Brecken, and even we had the possibility of the film being done there last year. So, and then we would just have provisions so that we could say that we would approve for the use. And we might have to mess with this after as well, I think, and bring back another version, but.
Okay, so now I'm confused. So you're going to allow members and non-members to be able to use the private beach?
We've allowed non-members to use it, but it's
Okay.
all, but it's always been by approval.
That's right. That's what
Yeah.
the whole form would be by approval.
Right, but the term visitors, because it wouldn't be visitors really, right? So I'm just trying to clarify the language so that
So it has to be a resident of the Township of Ramara?
it has to be someone who has been approved by the township. So that's why I added from time to time, individuals or organizations other than members with application and approval. And then that way the policy is specific.
So the committee or the commission would like to make sure that not just Lagoon City residents, but Township of Ramara residents and other organizations outside of the township would be permitted to put in an application to be able to, may or may not be able to use that beach. correct?
Yeah, I mean, unless, but we have done it in the past. So if we have to just determine, that's why I wanted to bring it. So, because we have to determine, we've let the Chamber of Commerce rent the beach. We were going to rent the beach to the film company. So either we want it or we don't. But I think when we do this policy, we need to make sure that the provision is there that we can do it by approval or not. Like, but we have to make sure that we,
As long as it comes through for approval.
as long
I'm
as they
all right
come
with
through
that.
for approval.
Because I know we did, there was a person that passed away. And the family had always said when he was up here, they didn't live here anymore. He loved it so much they wanted to plant a tree and have a celebration. So we did allow that in Parks and Waterways, right? So that's
Exactly.
really what that approval stands for. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, we can, I know it has to come back municipally and so Ashley can make the appropriate changes, but I was just going through and noticing some of the sections that would need to be updated and modified. And then, yeah, so then under implementation as well, a little bit of modification there. And mostly it's also just to make the language consistent. And I think it's good how you put in private in the beginning part, facilities, parks, and north and south beaches, because hopefully someday there is a facility, like we have a pavilion or something out there, right? Like that's a longer term thing, but I think we may as well cover it off in the policy out of the gate, and then we don't have to modify the policy if, for example, next year we do get to build pavilion or tables or who knows what, right? And then it just prevents changing it again.
So with the implementation, and just, that's why I wrote a procedure, throwing caution to the wind, so that way you can edit the way the commission sees fit. When someone applies, so if I put in my information and I put the application in, is it then going to go on the next Lagoon City Parks and Waterway Commission agenda for the commission to approve? Or what is that procedure that you want to see?
If it's for a member, I think we don't need to approve. It's only if it's a non-member, a non-levy paying person, that we would
Okay.
approve.
So if it's a member, a levy paying individual, and as long as it's not booked, maybe for something else, the secretary has that ability to approve it. And then do you want to be notified of that? Because I think that's what we want to make sure is clear in that procedure. So that way, Jacob wins millions of dollars and there's someone new in that beautiful seat. That individual really is clear, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So that way, if it's a non-levy paying person, so let's say it's a Chamber of Commerce, an organization would like to rent out the beach, that's when it does come to the commission. So that's when they would want to probably have a good 30 days notice or more. So that way, so it depends on who it is to even have that timeline and how
Yeah.
early they would want to get that.
So really
requested.
your question is that somebody can book it and then that person will say, yes, you can have it. And then it comes to the commission just to make us aware of it. I don't know about that. Like,
Yeah, and then, I mean, if it's a resident, the only reason we're even requesting for residents to tell us is because we've had situations where somebody calls bylaw because they see 20 people on the beach or whatever. So we're just trying to avoid. So I think, and in that process, it would be, if it's a levy paying person, you would just notify commission, bylaw, and beach security, like all stakeholders in that, right? And then and then if it's a non-levy, then it'll be the same thing, but that'll occur after the approval. That's all.
Yeah,
But
and renting of facilities and parks that happens at every municipality, happens here in the township. So this is aligned with what we do right now through the Recs department. So the one thing too that I really want to make sure is clear for individuals is that, let's say they're renting that space and they want to put in, let's say, a tent, or they're doing a wedding. If there's some things that are bigger and they need other permits, that information will also be on that page, so that they may have to talk to building in order to get like a special permit in order for to put up a tent. And then what does that actual process look like as well?
yeah, that's great. Yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Yeah. So it's just, I think, little like tweaks to the language. That's all.
So on the recommendation here is we'll be changing that.
So I'll read the amended recommendation.
Sorry, Jacob, I can barely hear you.
Sorry, so that we receive report AD 0924 as information, and that staff return an updated policy to the next commission meeting. Is that all right?
Are we amended to what? What's been changed?
I think it's a consistency with language. So making sure that we're private, especially when it comes to the beach, is within that. Making sure that procedure is clear. So whether they are a levy paying individual or a non-paying individual organization, I think, and some of the other little language as well that Sherry has shared with us. So consistency with language, I think, is big, as well as that procedure, just amending it. So that way, if it's a levy paying member, that secretary has the ability to approve and then advise applicable parties. But if it's a non-paying member organization, it would then come to the commission to then approve at the next meeting.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, that's very perfect.
Okay, so the amendment, who put that on the floor? I think you did,
Yes.
and I think you seconded it. You guys are okay with that? All right. Is there any more discussion on that? All in favor to? That's passed. Next one's unfinished or new business. This is 9.1. The recommendation is that the Lagoon City Parks and Waters Commission attend a road and canal tour of Lagoon City following the scheduled meeting dated June 13, 2024. Are we all good with that date? Oh, sorry, put on the floor, put it Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Councilor Bell. Discussion on that, or? So we'll meet down at my house afterwards. My house. Huh? Yeah, I'll do that. You just look for the boat then, right? Because you can come by boat. I didn't want it all over. All in favor on this? That's passed. And 9.2, the beach online booking form that I got mixed up with the other one. Staff report AD 0924.
So I believe there was a bit of a discrepancy with the agenda. My apologies. So that's been dealt with already. But I believe that should have been Greg's item for the beach party event that's going on. So if Greg wants to speak to that and you guys want to put that on the floor, that'll work.
What, so you're saying put what on the floor here? I could barely hear you.
Sorry. So yeah, Greg sent me some information regarding an upcoming beach party. So that's the item that should be 9.2. There was a discrepancy with the agenda. So the beach online booking form has already been discussed, so we don't have to discuss that.
Oh, my apologies. Okay, that's where I'm getting mixed up. I guess why I'm
Yeah.
reading this then. All right.
My
So
apologies.
we should change that. This is the event that's going on. Okay, all right, so that's what you changed it. Okay, I heard you. Okay, so I need to get that on the floor because I'm on the floor. Okay, so we put on the floor. Commissioner Shoesmith, second by Commissioner Mason. So we'll start with you then. Just talking.
Well, as Jacob was saying, I sent a budget breakdown and I distributed it to the commission members also. So I just have a couple of questions myself to the municipality, I guess to Josh and Jacob, regarding getting some safety cones to redirect foot traffic around any extension cords or potential trip hazards for the band setup. To get some garbage receptacles and some bags brought to the South Beach to subsidize what's already there. And can we get the beach raked the day before at least, or sometime just before? And we'll need gate access early in that day to set up any tents or lawn games for June 22nd. Also, we're going to be ordering some porta potties. I did contact one company that does work in this area. They're called Ampod. Whether we've used them before or not, I don't know. But the price seemed to coincide with what we had estimated at a meeting. And it was like $510, and that's complete with drop off and pickup for 2 units. So I don't know if that needs any sort of passage through the municipality, or we just order them. And also for a food vendor, which is Hot Dog Doug, a resident here in Lagoon City. I spoke to him. He is insured. He does have food handling certification and soft serve certifications. So does he require a 1-day permit to be on the beach for that day? So there's a number of items there.
The items regarding infrastructure, if you can just send me an email, exactly what you're all looking for and when, we can do that. The only one I have a concern with, garbage receptacles, we don't have spares. I can provide bags, not a problem, but we don't have spare garbage receptacles. They're all out throughout the whole township. So
Can we borrow them from those locations just for the day?
they're all out at parks throughout the township.
Okay, like they're probably fastened to a tree or some.
There are
fastened to-
receptacles in every park within the township. So I don't want to pull them from a park for a
Right.
weekend because then I just have garbage on.
So should we buy like a plastic bins and just keep them on hand for future use?
Councillor,
Thank you. No, I don't think we need to do that. We can just, when the bags are full, pop them out and put a new bag in. And then usually we would just leave them like near the water facility or something.
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
there's a dumpster that the commission has right there as well.
Yeah,
So,
so,
yeah.
and yeah, so we just change the bags as the day wears on, I
Well,
think.
sure, I just want to avoid the possibility of people just throwing things on the ground because the receptacle might be just.
Yeah, and that's what I
Convenient block.
want to avoid in all our other parks. So.
Right.
I want to avoid the same thing in all our other parks. So I don't want to pull them out of another park to put them down here.
where we
Um,
are fortunate down there is the fact that we have a bin there. So as soon as we get a bag, we throw it. in.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, so we're lucky to have that.
I guess we'll just keep it near the food area.
How many, we have enough bins down there now, or garbage receptacles down there now, don't we not?
There should be, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's 3 or 4 down there. or more.
Is it?
Yeah,
I-
and then I'll just need to know how many pylons you want and stuff like that. So,
Okay. Okay, so I'll just arrange that with you one-to-one via email. Okay, that's fine.
You know, in those emails now too, it'd probably be good to copy us too.
Yeah,
so
sure.
we
So
see what's
like
going
you
on.
notice would be. that's
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is.
when you
Yeah,
do
any
that or
communication. I
Any,
put you
yeah,
on
any
CC.
communication. Now,
Yeah,
I'll just copy
absolutely.
the.
Yeah,
All right.
Also regarding advertising with flyers, I guess we had hoped to have those printed here. And I guess the cost would be levied to the Parks and Waterways Commission. Is that correct? For 800 flyers roughly, that would be how much? Any background on that?
yeah, I don't have exact numbers, but there'll be postage and everything like that too. So unless you guys are handing them out.
No, we're gonna hand
yourselves.
them out personally. We're gonna have road captains. We're gonna arrange that with the LCCA and make sure every home gets an advertising flyer for the
Yeah.
beach.
Yeah, it'd probably just be a nominal fee. I don't know what the amount would be, but yeah.
Commissioner, sorry, Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just gonna see if we can ask Ashley, because if we want to walk them around by June 1st, just how soon would you like us to have the flyer to print?
Today. Oh,
Another thing we can look at, and I'll double check today and I can send an email, Staples might be cheaper to actually print it off at. But I'll go through and I forget what our pricing for color is per page, but sometimes Staples, especially with that quantity, I know that's what we've done in the past and it's quick and it's usually a very good price. And we just pick it up in Aurelia and they let you know how much and whatnot. So I can look
Typically-
that.
Typically, you'd spend like a penny a page.
Yeah, I forget, but I can look to see how much 800 would be at Staples and then what 800 would be here. And then I can give you an approximate price. So that way,
Because
The
I did keep a
commission would
small
know.
reserve, for miscellaneous costs that, aren't projected so far.
yeah, it's just the quantity of it. So that's why I'm just trying to think of, it might, I feel like I know in the past, for us going out to our printers is much easier. And we also have another company that we use for printing, Lemby. So I'll just look to see what that price would be as well.
So who should I ask about a one-day vendor permit for the hot dog cook?
That would be through bylaw. So John Popple is our licensing officer here.
Okay.
So if you send me an email, I can forward it to John or set you.
And
up.
as far as you know, that will be a requirement then.
I don't know the vendor permit bylaw off the top of my head. However, I can touch base with John just to.
Okay, well,
Verify.
I'll get it started via you anyways, okay.
should not the vendor though be calling the person to arrange this or?
Well, he asked me if he requires it, so I can just let him
Oh, let him
know
know
that
that.
he can do whatever he needs to do.
Yeah, call
As long as I
Papa.
can direct him in the right area.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, I just was wondering if we could put the budget up so the public can see, because we've had questions about the budget. So does Ash have it? Did you forward it? Just because we've had
The budget that was sent in the email
that
about?
Greg had forwarded.
Okay,
last night,
sure, yeah.
If you don't mind, just then the public can see, because I know we had questions about budget come to us. So I just want to make sure that we all look at it together and then we can all decide what we think is appropriate.
Sure.
And I know we did budget 2,500, but I also know that we received some negative feedback about 2,500. So I just think we should pop it up so we can all kind of go through it line by line.
Sure.
Thank you, thank you.
So you've been working with the LCCA on this, with the street captains and all that?
Had a couple of meetings. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
going to have
okay.
a monthly meeting leading up to the actual day,
Because the day is when?
June 22nd.
Oh, see, yeah, probably have a few more meetings. Yeah, okay, perfect.
As far as ordering the portable toilets, would that be the municipality or the Parks and Waterways Commission?
It could be either one.
Either one is
they're-
fine?
They're
Okay.
kind of the same in a sense, really.
So if I went ahead and did that, that's okay.
I think what you need to do is get Josh to do it, right?
Yeah, so we use a different contractor within the township. I just don't know if your contractor would have our account information. So,
I don't know. I started kind of shopping around and this place was recommended to me by a couple of places
Mhm.
as someone that works in the Aurelia neighborhood.
Yeah.
And here for that matter.
What
think
we
they're
should,
based
do-
out
we
of
should use
Stouffville.
though what the township uses or what
Absolutely,
Parks and
sure,
Waterways
yeah.
uses.
This
Yeah.
was just, I'm just shopping and getting pricing, that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
But if there's somebody that's,
yeah, we use a
a
different
history.
vendor for our porta potties throughout
Sure.
the township. So,
okay,
if you want to go with that one,
it makes absolutely no difference in terms of price or veneer of the whole thing. It's just, it's a
Yeah.
functional item, so we'll just go with whatever the town uses.
okay. Yeah, no, we can book it through our who we use. So,
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also be using our own washrooms too?
Well, yeah, these are to supplement
Yeah.
because there's so few there. And we really don't know at this point how many people are planning to attend. I mean, that's something that we have to kind of slowly iron out as we get closer to the date. In fact, if the response isn't overwhelming, we may not need the toilets at all. It's something, in fact, with the company I called, they only need a 1-week notice. So if it looks like it's going to come down in torrential rain June 22nd, or we're not getting very much feedback, we could even suspend that or
Perfect,
actually
okay.
cancel it, sorry.
Yep, stay on top of that. Yeah,
Yeah,
just in case. Yeah, perfect. Councilor Brown.
Thank you. Yes, and as far as the numbers, when we do the invitation poster, we're going to work out a method. Is we've got all stakeholders in the community involved. So we have the marina, the inn, the LCCA. So it's a combined effort of all of us. And obviously, the idea is to bring harmony to all of our stakeholders. So it will be. We have methods of having a sign up form probably at the LCCA and a sign up form over at the marina, and letting the yacht club know as well too as levy payers. So that way we're hoping that we'll start to get a few idea of numbers in advance. We know we're not going to get it all, but if we can get sort of an idea, that's what we were hoping for. So.
And that became one of the benefits of hiring somebody to actually supply the food and the cooking and that sort of thing. That way we don't have to estimate how much food we're going to need. He has the product, he brings it, he supplies it, whatever is left over with, he uses, someplace else. So it takes the load off our back anyway.
It's quite endeavor taken off. Good for you. So this is the,
Yeah, the top few are fixed costs and the rest are variable and estimated based on, like online adverts and that sort of thing. So there's some variation in play amongst some of those, bottom few.
so that band has been booked. You've already
Yes.
talked to them?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a good band. I've done,
They're excellent.
they're a good band?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect.
No, they really are. They played at the LCCA for the Halloween party, and the feedback and the response from people there was, just really super.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Mason.
Have we approached possibly Wild Wing and Harbor Inn, maybe see if they would provide gift certificates or something without charge for us?
Well, maybe Sherry can answer that.
Thank you. Yeah, we weren't looking to we weren't hoping to take donations on this just because, and so you'll see we have built in 3 prizes. So what we were going to do, because we were having Doug come in and be the vendor, and then just to be fair to all of the food businesses, we thought a gift certificate for Pure One, Fin City, and Lanterna, those would be prizes. And then that way it would be shared among all the businesses. That's kind of what the thinking was, just to disperse it kind of fairly around and have everybody represented.
Yeah. And there is some potential for some donated prizes too.
Which is a good idea. I don't think we should be looking for donations if we
Right.
don't have to. Yeah.
But if they offer, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Right, but I think what you've done with the businesses is a great idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's smart.
Yeah, and then I think the one thing, the kids pool, I think you were thinking for water in that.
For ice, yeah,
Yeah.
just my blocks of ice.
So in the interim, Anna shot us a message and said she'd be pleased, no problem, to get ice from her ice machines throughout the afternoon. So what I'm thinking is I don't think we even need to buy that, because what we can do is maybe fill them up first round. And then as the day wears on, she said, fine, just pop over and grab ice from me. So I think
That's great.
that'll be great.
Well,
Yeah,
we'll need a container of some sort.
exactly.
Like a kid's
Yeah,
pool, a
and I've
brand
got a
new one.
couple bins, so I think we're good. I don't think we even
Yeah,
need to
I
purchase
saw them
that.
advertised for like $35
Yeah.
plus tax, whatever. It won't be
Yeah.
much. You can give it to a family at the finish if you like.
And then the only thing, I had a couple questions on, $300 for decor. Can we trim that down just because it's a one-time use? The only thing, and I
Well,
know
the whole
it's-
event is a one-day
it's a
thing.
one-time use, I know. And I guess I would say if it's a max of 300 or whatever, and then it could always be donated over to LCCA after. And then once it's in the community,
It
if
can
we
be
do another
reused,
party
of
next
course.
year, we can
Yep.
reuse it. So I just want to speak to it so that people who may listen in understand where we're coming from. That's all. And then of course, the other thing is Mysterian is going to be at the LCCA in a little bit time after. So there just was questions about having the same
I
event.
did address
twice,
that,
so-
and it all depends on perspective, I think. If people don't know who he is, they may not be interested. But he's not actually doing a show. I spoke to him, and he's just going to mingle through the crowd, be some sort of entertainment for people that aren't necessarily interested in that genre of music, or young kids and teenagers, whatever. And I think it might just inspire people to actually go. I think people that support the LCCA are going to go anyways. And I think this might be intriguing enough for non-members to maybe sign up. And it shows some diversity within the community center. And there's quality entertainment. So I think it's a very positive thing.
What do you guys, I mean, I see what you're saying. And that way, if he does like tricks for kids and things like
He
that, just
does.
depending
He
on.
was actually a magician in his earlier days.
And because
So he
again,
has a whole-
because again, we're
gamut
gonna
of
have
stuff.
games set up. So there's gonna be like ladder, I don't know what games yet, long games.
Like I say,
long
he's not
games.
being commissioned for a show. It's just
Yeah.
strictly to mingle and to just kind of help out and gather some more interest and some fun. It is, and it's different. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's something different. All right. Do you have more questions?
No, I just wanted to make sure we pop it up so that, all the residents can see kind of where we're going and what we're thinking and that. So
No,
it's
you've
clarity
done
on the
well.
budget.
It's well laid out. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, it looks really good. Thank you for doing all this. Yeah, it takes a lot of work to do something like this, and talk to
I've got
everybody.
time.
I thought when we retired, we didn't have time. We were too busy.
Just one
So
question.
is there any,
Just one question. Yeah. Does Jacob, do you need us to give you motions on any of this?
No, I don't believe so at this time. From what I gathered, staff are going to kind of look into what equipment is available and what the timelines and costs are going to be on printing flyers and items such as that. So I think we'll bring this back to the next meeting in May just to confirm all the details prior to the beach event, and then we'll go from there.
Jacob, do you mind if I ask you to send me an email on exactly what it is you require? And then I can forward it to the people that need to get in touch with people involved with the permits, for example.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
so just remember, keep everybody in the loop now. Everybody should be aware of what's going on. What about insurance and something like this, Jacob?
That's something that I'll have to look into as well. So I think I'll provide a report at the next meeting.
Yeah,
Just to
just to make sure if we
confirm
have to have extra, just so we're covered. So,
Yep.
yeah. Any more discussion on it? No? Well, remember now, it's getting closer. Probably if you want to make decisions, you'd be better to email it around us to us because we wait till the next meeting, it's, you know, where are we now? It's like 2 months away, yeah. Yeah, it's getting real close. Yeah. Okay, all in, wait a second, let me just look what we did here. Yeah, all in favor? Pass. Where am I here now? Unfinished or new business?
Just 9.3.
Meeting date change. What's?
Yeah, so just a couple of housekeeping items for the next meeting. Legislative Services is running a by-election in May.
Oh, we can't hear you. It's really hard.
So Legislative Services is running a by-election in May. So we have changed the meeting date from, I believe, May 11th. Sorry, May 9th, as May 9th falls in the voting period for the by-election. So Legislative Services will be focused primarily on the by-election. So we've moved the meeting to May 16th, the following week. That meeting will be hybrid, so it'll be in person and remote.
Okay,
Another,
hold on, I could be, it's in-house or on offline, or is it all offline?
no, the meeting will be in person or
In person.
remote.
So we're
Just
just
like
going
we're
to
doing today.
Thursday after in May then.
Sorry,
We're just going to the Thursday after in May.
correct.
And that doesn't affect you and your plans for your beach. No, okay.
Another piece of housekeeping item, Amber McDonald is our new deputy clerk. Next month, we'll be transitioning her into the secretary role for the Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission. So this is technically my last meeting as secretary, but Amber and I will be working closely together in May to kind of transition her over. Just getting her up to speed on everything. So
And where is she today?
they're just in a meeting, so they're not available, Jen and Amber.
So you'll bring her up to speed with what we're talking about?
Yep.
All right. And so we changed that. So do you want me to put a motion forward on that? You don't need to? Okay. All right, so that's, just be aware of that, right? I guess gotta go back to unfinished or new business, right? Does anybody have unfinished or new business? I see nodding over to the council.
I do, thank you. I want to talk a little bit just about the township-owned land versus Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission land. So the township, the piers, the entrance to Lagoon City, we now know based on the land search that was done in the fall that that's actually not our responsibility. And in fact, we've been paying the bills out there since I guess 1986. So so last year, for example, we had to have that navigation light was repaired. We shouldn't be charged that at Parks and Waterways. And we shouldn't be, we shouldn't be paying for any kind of maintenance or anything that goes on the township owned aspect of it. And so I am hoping that we can, and I know it's not a large amount of money, but at the end of the day, we are burdening, we're at $862 a year in levy right now. So I think that we shouldn't be paying for things that aren't within our purview. So I would not like to continue paying for, and I know someone is going to argue that there's a light as an entryway to a harbor, but then my statement back would be, well, unless we go put a light along the entire shoreline so that people with boats can go home. I don't think it's the same thing. Harbors and the Lagoon City entrance to the marina is meant to draw people into the township and into our commerce center here in Brecken. And typically your ports and your ports of entry into a township are, under the purview of the township. And I just don't think we should be paying that. And I know we were invoiced last year. I think it's around about $1,000 for the repair of that nav light. And I know we've been paying the hydro to keep it lit. And I know that we pay for the time to put channel markers in and out. And that would also typically be not the responsibility of residents, right? Because again, we know where we live, just like you would anywhere along that shoreline. We don't put channel markers out so that people can go to their homes. So I don't actually think that should be being billed to us. So I would like to have that $1,000 or whatever dollars returned back to Parks and Waterways. I just think that it's just not ours to pay.
How did the township, to me, I've always felt it's a federal issue. That's what it used to be when it first went in. It was all a federal issue up there. It was never, ever Parks and Waterways. It was never the towns. Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So when we did those property searches, I don't have them in front of me to look at exactly what it was. It was a report done by the Kathy quite a while ago. I'd have to get myself up to speed with it.
Yeah, yeah, because I know, don't the other places, it's all done by federal, it's not by the, like,
It's because it's an in-water channel. So with the markers anyways, it's a man-made in-water channel. So
Right.
anything out Lake Simcoe or Cooch or anything like that is federal. Because you're in water, inland, I believe it's on whoever built it, essentially.
so then theoretically, they should be doing the markers coming into that channel at the federal. Because
You're
to keep you
inland,
off,
it's a man-made inlet.
but aren't they all man-made inlets? Everywhere you go, they're protected, right? By docks, like look at Beaverton or Aurelia, they're all man-made.
But they're all,
Yeah,
they, on all charts, they would be identified as private.
yes.
So all those inland markers are identified as PRVs, and they're not responsibility of.
But on the outskirts of what we have, that's,
Yes, as soon as you're in the lake.
right, and it's the federal's responsibility to look after lights, because back when that was built, the federal government is the one that dredged all the way down inside that spin, right? That's who dredged it. like, back
Yeah,
then.
I'll have to look at it to familiarize myself with everything.
Yeah, it's really a thorny issue, I think.
Yeah,
because
like if you go to the marina in Aurelia, they do have channel markers, but like you said, they're private for that marina.
So outside, when you come into a search, when you come into Aurelia then, and you've got that whole wall put up, which I understand that's man-made. On the other side of that, all those markers, that's all done by the federal government, correct? Coming into it? Because it starts way out in the bay and comes right in.
Because it's the
In
channel
the
way
lake
into
is
the
federal.
marina.
Can we just have Ashley put the map up? That might just be easier. So that was received on September 14th of 2023. And you can clearly see the blue marker area that says that's township owned. So I'm not sure what, I wasn't trying to talk about the federal government at all. I just was
I did.
talking about, yeah, I was just saying, this is township owned property. So why would
I
Parks and
see.
Waterways
We've
pay
taken
for
it
it?
a little bit further what you wanted to talk. about.
Yeah, I just was saying it's township land. I don't want to pay for township land. So, yeah, and that
Yeah,
was,
so it could end up being those markers don't go in anymore. Because they're private. I don't know. I'd have to look into if there is a requirement to put them in. I don't think they're on the charting maps to say that they're private in there. We just put them in for navigational. So, and the idea was for the marina and for the users of the canal, yes, you are going to have transient people come through for sure. It was just to depict that channel way. So.
But I remember back, and this goes way back 30 years ago, when we used to come out, there used to be numbers on there and there's no numbers on them. So at one time, I think it was, because you don't have numbers on them now, do you? Because I remember there used to be numbers on it. And I can remember they were always crappy looking. And now they always look nice and clean and neat all the time. So I'm sure. So this is the map you're talking about.
yes, thank you. And I guess I'm saying, I mean, if you're putting the markers in whatever, you're doing that as a matter of doing your regular, put the no wake signs and that out, that's one thing. But more, I was just thinking, there was graffiti cleaned up out there, for example, and Parks and Waterways was billed for it. There was the nav light repair last year. Parks and Waterways was billed for it. There's the hydro that keeps the light running out there for years and years, and Parks and Waterways been charged for it. And no, we know it's township land. So I just think the township should be billed for their
Okay,
own
so can you
land.
explain those yellow lines? Is that what we're saying there? What?
We're just looking at the blue area. See, I have the map up
The
from
blue
September.
area.
The
Yeah,
yellow,
so on September 13th, we received this information that it's the township property, and there's quite a nice map that Kathy had provided us then, and it's outlined in blue that shows you exactly what's township property. So it's on our September 13th, 2023 agenda. Sorry, September 14th, 2023 agenda. I said 13th. And it's called Lands and Ownership Boundaries. And it showed really nicely that that's all township owned out there.
Well, I've always felt the gateway signs should be township because they put them everywhere, right? Everybody.
But I'm going to talk about that too in a second. That's just one thing at a time.
Well, that's all in there.
But, well, yeah, so we'll just let Ashley pull that up and then. Perfect,
Oh, here we go.
right? So anything out there in the blue is not our responsibility.
So even according to that, your private beach is federal property. So
No, the pink was the private beaches.
the pink is the private beach, but there's no filling in between the blue and pink. So that's your private beach, your south private beach. So
So
beach-
the actual shore wall that's being paid for is the town
Yeah, that's all township.
responsibility.
That's all township. And that's what I'm saying. We shouldn't be being billed for township property. And so that's one item, obviously, is just, there's
So,
invoices
so hold
that
on a
have
minute. So
been,
that means that's public property to park boats on that.
yeah, it's all township out there.
Wow.
So I guess the first motion I want to put on the floor is that there's a reversal of charges for anything on that township land that should not be being billed to the residents of levy paying residents or businesses, in fact, of Lagoon City. So that would be one piece of it. And then I would obviously need someone to second that, because then it would have to get brought to,
Well, it shouldn't even have to be second. We shouldn't be doing it. Like it should.
well, we never should have been doing
should
it
never
clearly,
happen
but
then.
we have been for I don't know
None
how
of
long.
that should, I was always told that was Parks and Waterways.
I know, but when Kathy brought this report last September, that's when we learned it's not. And then, yeah, I was going back through some of the budgetary items, and I started to think, we've paid to light it up. We've paid to fix that nav light. We shouldn't be paying any shore wall out
Cutting the
there.
grass,
The residents,
everything.
like, none of that is our responsibility. So I just want to, the motion would be reversal of charges on township land, as well as no further charges to the levy payers for township held lands.
So I guess the question is, what is that marking then between I know this is off, like from the pink to the blue. What is that?
I don't
green?
know. That's what I'm asking Josh.
that's no marking, so that's federal property,
That's federal property?
according to that, yeah. So your south private beach is federal property, according to that.
Which makes it public then if they can get at it from the water, but they can't get at it. Oh, no, they
Correct.
can get it from there. That's what the
100%
design is
correct,
for.
yeah. It'd be public property, it'd be anybody, so.
So again, that beach is, holy jumping.
So, and then if that's the case again as well, we should not be responsible for its maintenance or its
Federal
care or any of those things. So there would be quite a
So yeah, it means federal would be responsible for the maintenance of it, not the commission. So the commission couldn't direct maintenance for that beach.
right.
And it'd be public property that you can't restrict any use of.
Right.
The whole area on the other side, the commission has nothing to do with it. The gateway coming in, all of that, we got nothing to do with it.
Well, the pink is all Parks and Waterways. So
No,
you
I'm
can see,
talking like coming up.
no, but you know what I'm saying? You can see the issue is that the pink is Parks and Waterways, but then the beach isn't. So like there's clarity that
So
we,
it's kind of a double-edged sword.
I know.
edged sword. So
No,
the
no,
blue,
I
the
know.
blue is township, which is open to any public, anywhere from anywhere.
Yep.
The white spot that's between the pink and the blue, again, that'd be federal, just looking at the mapping. So that's no longer private. Anybody can go on that beach at any time they choose.
If they can get there.
but they can get there from water. They can't get there by land.
So there'd be no allowance of any restrictions for use of that beach at that point.
That's right.
So your beach security could only do, it would have to be surveyed, depicted, the beach security could only do security within that pink zone.
Wow.
So it kind of opens up.
This
No,
A
I
lot
know.
more.
I know. No, I know. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's certain things like I mean, you have to bring this because we're not having residents pay for all this township shore wall.
Absolutely.
So these are things that we have to dig
But you
into.
can go back to like, what was it, 12 years ago, where they replaced that whole shore wall and Parks and Water was paid for. It was
Exactly,
over
and we need our
100
money
grand
back.
then.
And we need our money back because the levy payers should not be paying for that. That is not our land and we should not be held responsible for that. That's I mean, it's just too much money. And at $862 a year, I don't want to pay for somebody else's shore wall. And that's not rude. That's just reality check, right? Like we can't continue to pay other people's bills, So in all fairness, the motion would be a reversal of charges to
My
the
question is,
levy
I
payers.
guess, how accurate is this information we're looking at right now? All it is a bunch of colors on a map right now.
I have our GIS mapping and it lines up exactly with that mapping. So yeah, I'm assuming those property lines are right on.
So you figure when that was done, it makes sense because on the far side, they have the access from public property into that private beach. On this side, they cut it out, but not really because you can still, on the private beach, you can still access all of that through the public side.
Yeah,
Right?
even according to that, on your north beach, there is sections of that beach which would be public ownership.
What, those tiny little areas?
Yeah.
Why would they leave tiny little areas like that?
Shorelines move depending on water levels. So unless you
Oh.
own out into the body of water, which not many people do, it's because shorelines move.
And the yellow is the
Yeah, that'd be corporate or private ownership.
the corporate. So they own that whole shore wall on that far side where all those boats are parked.
So yeah, it's all private ownership. The southern side of the inlet around the water plant, I believe that's transient parking for the marina, which they're talking about using. The northern side, there is agreements with the condo units for use over there, but it is all owned by the one developer.
So you're saying the hotel doesn't own any of that property?
No, it's all. the
So they
developer.
just paid for that shore wall, what, 7 years ago?
I don't know.
I know that they paid for the same time they paid for mine.
But yeah, I don't know.
And it should have been it should have been the developer. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to Josh, but when you were out there staking off the no mooring from this point westerly, we now have a bylaw in place where we've taken jurisdiction over those shore walls on both sides. So is that now void?
So there is still a no mooring bylaw, which is administered through the
But if
township.
it's private property, how can you? take
On the
jurisdiction?
green, it's private property. We don't administer that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so we don't administer anything on the green. It's only on public lands or commission.
But it's all
lands.
green, all from the jetty.
Not all the
quite-
way.
Quite easterly.
So
At
when
least on
I
the
when
north
I went
side,
out
it's
last year and
completely right
mapped
to the
it,
first canal there.
when I went out last year and mapped it,
Right.
I was using our GIS mapping, which is exactly that.
But I saw that map you showed me, and it seems to contradict this.
I don't believe so.
No, the sign where it says no mooring from this point on is exactly where the blue and the pink meet, where the yellow is, right? Yes, exactly.
That's
So
pretty
you're
much where
saying
the
those
rocks are.
condos don't have the right to park along there? That's the developers.
Actually, we do. We have a contract with Indicon, and it's been grandfathered in now to Talisker, where we have 256, and I think there was an amendment to that to add another 100 feet of shore wall on the north side that we have access to. Now, it's not specific from any point from point A to B. It's actually transient. It can be anywhere within the Lagoon City system. The Indicon granted access to moor a boat. Total for that development at Moen Paradise, a total of 356 feet, I believe it is.
But no overnight mooring.
Yes, there can be on that 356. Anything that's not allocated to our development, there's no overnight. Correct.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, no, I was just gonna say it doesn't matter to us because that's private, right?
Yeah,
So
well,
we shouldn't
I
really
was
talk
just
about
thinking,
it.
okay,
Yeah,
that's not a
no,
problem.
I was just thinking because it's
Okay,
private.
so
we
let's go
shouldn't
back.
talk about
Okay,
it.
so it's logical what you said. that.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I'm just saying, so I guess maybe what we need actually is more than just a reversal of all the charges, but what we actually need is a staff report on what is actually owed back to levy payers. So when Kathy presented this to us last year, she had done all the land searches and titles, so you'll obviously have that available to you now. So you'll also know at what time it was actually transferred to the township and not Lagoon City Parks and Waterways Commission. So I'm guessing that if it all happened at the same time, the people of Lagoon City would be owed back, money from quite a number of years. So I guess what I'll say then is, can we please, I guess the motion is for a staff report to define financial responsibility of township land that had been otherwise assumed to be Parks and Waterways Commission.
Okay. You want to put that on the floor?
Yes, please.
Can you just read that to us before we vote on it, Jacob?
Or modify it if my language isn't
Yeah.
quite correct, but
That staff provide a report to the commission regarding the financial responsibilities regarding land and ownership thereof.
I mean, I guess, because would we do it in two motions where after the report comes back, then we would probably do a motion to ask the township to return to us our funds, or would it all happen at the same time? I guess.
Let's get the information before we do any of that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's best to get some information on this because I'm also thinking from a records standpoint as well that, you know, accounts payable records, we may not have some of those anymore because there is certain retention on those. So we'll have to receive all that information before we proceed.
Yeah, I think it'll always be two reports though, because one will be to the commission and one will be to council. It'll be a council decision to reverse anything if that's the way they choose to go.
Thank you.
Well, they should be aware of it too, right, council?
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner Schuster.
Are we going to require a survey for this? Because as you say, the shoreline does vary according to water levels. So you're going to have to know exactly where one ends and the other begins.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So it'll be determining all those. It'll be within that report because there's going to be quite a cost for surveys as well. So-
I'd have to imagine the federal government doesn't own anything right now. They're so high.
And I guess the cost of the survey would not be to the people of Lagoon City either, because this is a township held land, and it should have been its own responsibility to do its survey and determine its ownership. And then, because it should have been up to the township to not charge the people of Lagoon City for something it didn't own. So I think the survey goes to the township as well. So,
It can be depicted in the report.
yeah. Okay. Thank you. Ken.
Wow.
Thank you, Jacob.
Okay.
I do have another once we finish dispense with that, unless anybody else is.
Well, just want to put that, finish it.
So I've just amended the motion to
Can you
read
put your
that's-
mic close to your mouth? Because it's really hard. You're such a soft speaker.
So the amended motion is that staff provide a report regarding financial responsibilities and land ownership within Lagoon City. Is that okay?
I think sounds good to me. Anybody?
I mean, I think we have the land to a degree, but it sounds like we need to do more. So I think that sounds right.
Yeah, include that, I guess that thing with the yellow and the blue. Okay, all in favor? That's passed. I understand you have something else.
One more, thank you. And so this one, it's going to be a conversation and potentially a request, but I just want to get it out here. So because there's so much confusion around who owns what, oftentimes we get requests to Parks and Waterways, which are not Parks and Waterways. So for example, somebody might phone and say something about the park at 11 Laguna. And I would say that's not Parks and Waterways, that's the township. Or somebody might phone and say, actually, they sometimes think that we have responsibility over drinking water because they just read water and they don't necessarily know. So as a result of that, we have had requests and questions about the notion of gateway signage, which has come up a few times over the years. And we also had a discussion about the gateway signage, and then, you know, how could we welcome people into the township? Well, again, that wouldn't be within the purview of Parks and Waterways. So I kind of just want to say that. But then as a result of that, what happened is it got carried over to council, and then council saw it as a request from the residents of Lagoon City. But in reality, this is not a request from the residents of Lagoon City for gateway signage. That would be a township issue on township land to draw people into the township. So it really has no bearing here at Parks and Waterways. And I just want to bring it because I just want to make sure that we're having public, you know, transparency as far as who's responsible for what. So a motion to bring gateway signage shouldn't come from us. It should be, because it would be part of the overall Brecken and Lagoon City Community Improvement Plan to be bringing, enhancing our local prosperity would be a township thing. So I know on the roads tour this week, there was conversation about it. And so I just want to bring it here and just want to kind of clarify, we should never talk about that here, and rather it should be something that gets discussed at council, and just make sure that we're clear on the roles and responsibilities. That's all, because that ends up getting muddied on the council side, because then they feel like somehow the people of Lagoon City should buy a gateway sign, but we never should. So I just want to make sure that kind of on the clarity side, we don't bring those conversations here, because they're not our conversations to have. And that's kind of, so it's more just a conversation than anything. And then any discussion that we would have, you know, about painting buildings or yeah, gateway signs or whatever would just be a council related matter.
I agree with you, but I know when I brought it up many times, I was always told that it was Lagoon City's issue if they wanted gateway signs to do it themselves. And when we talked about gateway signs all through the different locations, I did bring that up a number of times that we should have a sign coming in, you know, and it should be the same signs that are out on the road. It should all look alike. It shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it. And then that's why I want to bring it, because I just want to make sure we get back to
And I
clarifying
do
our
think there should
roles.
be, I still
Yeah.
think there should be a gateway sign that matches the gateway signs all through it in our waterway. It's one of the few waterways to come in.
Yeah,
And I know
well,
somebody
it's,
talked about the red, the green or whatever river. If they need to, then put signs there too.
yeah,
right? I
exactly.
think
Yeah,
they should.
exactly. It's definitely a township thing. So that's the only
Exactly.
reason I'm bringing it today, is just to make sure, for clarity's sake, that we ourselves as a commission recognize that we don't want to bring township matters. We just want to bring Parks and Waterways matters. And that's really, that was just more of a comment than anything. And then I guess because I'm
So there's
allowed,
no motion on the floor.
no motion, just, and then I just, because now I have the mic, I just want to say thanks to Jacob, because he's been great coming in between, and, you know, we've enjoyed working with you from my perspective, and I know I'll still see you, Ben. Thank you.
Does anybody have any other? The other thing I had, we were talking about these water quality assessments that are all through Lagoon City. So I did have a chance and I looked it all up. And so the first report I got was on 2014 to 2015. And now I know there's reports before that because they were doing it before I became on the commission. And this was the first one. And then they did a final report where they went through everything and all the tests and all the different degrees in water. And I knew you were talking about that. And they picked certain locations. And they have all the locations broken down here. And I went out with them a couple times to try to figure out what they were doing. And it was interesting what they did. So I would have to think you might have this information because I know you were asking for it. I know people are interested in what the water quality was there. And if we were doing another one, we should probably have this as reference, right? And this was I think it was $100 or a couple $100,000 study where I believe Lagoon City paid for half and the federal government or the provincial government paid for the other half.
I'd have to check if we have records anywhere. I don't know off the top of my head where they'd be, but that is something that I can look into.
Right. And I don't know if these professors, I see there's 3 names here. I only recognize the one. I don't think I ever met the other 2, but I do know we had difficulties when they did the final report and sent this out to us. If you really look at it as a layman, I don't understand a lot of it. So we really want him to come and speak to us and he refused to. And then when we said we weren't paying the other half, he did come and speak to us. And I really didn't learn that much. I was just looking at my notes and that and so on and so forth, but it is there. And they did all the different, they would drop down that metal thing and see how far down they could see it. And they did the whole system. And I do believe the person that worked with them was, he's in our environmental or what we're calling it now. He still works there. He was out with them all the time and he was pretty aware of what was going on, pretty knowledgeable. So if you wanted all this, but you probably should get all the copies from Jacob if you can find them. Councilor.
Thank you. Yeah. And the upcoming case studies with the Conservation Authority are going to be different than that because they're going to be looking at things like how much phosphorus is entering into the canals, how much sodium is entering into the canals.
Oh,
and sodium is actually the largest driving factor right now because the Conservation Authority is there's a massive commitment to reducing sodium content coming into our waterways. So it's pretty cool if people are interested, but they're talking about new road design, new parking lot design. And so
when they did this, they actually took the water and they brought it back and they tested it. They
Yeah,
actually took it
so-
from down below, middle and up. I remember
Yeah.
taking all different levels.
And so there's a similar project being done on Kawartha at Kawartha right now through Kawartha Conservation. And that's kind of parts of the things. And also that's 10 years old. So the other thing that's happened is in the interim, the Conservation Authority has modified its approach to Lake Simcoe. So they're using now an adaptive lake management strategy that talks about holistic health. So whereas they were looking at, say, phosphorus as as a buzzword, and they were talking about the 44 tons of phosphorus loading, for example, that's not necessarily, not that phosphorus reduction isn't part of the strategy, but they're adopting a different approach to the lake where it would, and so what the visual graphic they used was the human body, and they said it wouldn't make sense to talk about your heart health but not talk about your liver or kidney health. So essentially the program and the change that the Conservation Authority is looking at, and not just Conservation Authority, the province of Ontario, is a strategy that says, yeah, phosphorus matters, but so does sodium chloride, but so does climate change, but so do invasive species. And so this idea of the case studies, and some of it might get funded because the province has some kind of funding available for sodium chloride research. So that was kind of why it was timely for us to bring it now. And we had just signed our MOU with conservation, and then now Jacob had, and I believe Zach had entered into that first round of conversations. So I do think that this is beneficial to have that historical, but I just want to, just so people understand what we're driving at is finding out where we are now under the new strategies and with the new understandings of lake health.
I understand that all of that, but I think for myself, I always look at history, and I love to look back and see, okay, this is how much we had back 10 years ago. Here's where we are now. Has it reduced or has it? And if it has reduced, why has it reduced? If it hasn't reduced and we've added, how have we added, which will then fall right into all your studies. Because to me, to do a study like this and just let it go now, because to me, the reason you did a study like this 10 years ago is to compare it to the future, right? And it may not, like, people thinking, but the actual chemicals or whatever's in the water, it's not changing, right? It's still there, right? So it's just a matter of, that's the way I look. And I'm really curious because I know for a fact they did the spot right where it is at Keggers there at the back there. They did, I saw them check in there, and I could never figure out why they picked the certain locations because they didn't make sense to me other than that one. That to me would have been the whole area. They were all over the place. And apparently the doctor, he just took a look at the map and went here, 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 here. He didn't even come up and look. And that's where they did it. So anyways, if you could find them, I think it'd be beneficial for them to see this. I know I would like, I would want them compared almost to see. But yeah, it's interesting. But you know what, 10 years from now, people, it's kind of like raising your kids. You know, you're supposed to, you know, back what, the 60s, you had to do this. And in the 70s, you did this. The 80s, you did this. Then you went back to the 60s and you did that, right? So it's all over the place. It depends on the mood, right?
Hopefully we're supposed to be getting smarter, Cal.
I don't know. Sometimes we're going backwards. But anyways, so if you wouldn't mind looking into it, do I have to put a motion forward on that or no? No. I guess that was it then. Nobody else had anything else? Okay, so I guess we're going to adjourn at 10:41. All in favor? I guess I should have put
Mover and seconder.
I know. I do that all the time to you. Move the first is the counselor, second by Commissioner Mason. All in favor? Passed.